Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to my reading aloud of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Silmarillion, the beautiful, not often read Bible of the Tolkien universe. We are currently on Chapter 2 of the Quenta Silmarillion, which is the middle big bit of this whole book. It's my fourth reading, and this chapter is a really nice kind of domestic scene because we focus in on two of the Valar. Remember, the Valar were like the gods of Earth that Iluvatar, the main god, has sent down to kind of make and fashion and protect Ea, which is there's so many names for the planet and the existence. I'm probably getting it wrong. And this one concentrates on two, the ones who make the things that humans and people who speak are Aule and Yavanna, who are a couple. Aule is the guy who's in charge of like making stuff, mining materials, and Yavanna is the one who makes all the growing things, animals and also growing plants. And it's the first time that we get actual dialogue and just start of a glimpse into the awesome human moments that happen in between all the very high formal language of the rest of it. There's little hints of that awesome kind of sense of humor that Tolkien has. So let's just dive right in. Chapter 2 of Aule and Yavanna. It is told that in their beginning, the dwarves were made by Aule in the darkness of Middle-earth. For so greatly did Aule desire the coming of the children, to have learners to whom he could teach his lore and his crafts, that he was unwilling to await the fulfillment of the designs of Iluvatar. And Aule made the dwarves even as they still are, because the forms of the children who were to come were unclear to his mind, and because the power of Melkor was yet over the earth, and he wished therefore that they should be strong and unyielding. But fearing that the other Valar might blame his work, he wrought in secret. And, just checking that I was actually recording. He wrought in secret. And he made first the 7 fathers of the dwarves in a hall under the mountains in Middle-earth. Now Iluvatar knew what was done, and in the very hour that Aule's work was complete, and he was pleased and began to instruct the dwarves in the speech that he had devised for them, Iluvatar spoke to him, and Aule heard his voice and was silent. And the voice of Iluvatar said to him, "Why hast thou done this? Why dost thou attempt a thing which thou knowest is beyond thy power and thy authority? For thou hast from me as a gift thine own being only, and no more. And therefore the creatures of thy hand and mind can live only by that being, moving when thou thinkest to move them, and if thy thought be elsewhere, standing idle. Is that thy desire?" Then Aule answered, "Oh, I did not desire such lordship. I desired things other than I am, to love and to teach them, so that they too might perceive the beauty of Ea, which thou hast caused to be. For it seemed to me that there is great room in Arda for many things that might rejoice in it. Yet it is for the most part empty still and dumb, and in my impatience I have fallen into folly. Yet the making of things is in my heart, from my own making by thee. And the child of little understanding that makes a play of the deeds of his father may do so without thought of mockery, but because he is the son of his father. But what shall I do now, so that thou be not angry with me forever? As a child to his father, I offer to thee these things, the work of the hands which thou hast made. Do with them what thou wilt, but should I not rather destroy the work of my presumption?" Then Aule took up a great hammer to smite the dwarves, and he wept. But Iluvatar had compassion upon Aule in his desire, because of his humility, and the dwarves shrank from the hammer and were afraid, and they bowed down their heads and begged for mercy. And the voice of Iluvatar said to Aule, "Thy offer I accepted even as it was made. Dost thou not see that these things have now a life of their own, and speak with their own voices? Else they would not have flinched from thy blow, nor from any command of thy will." Then Aule cast down his hammer and was glad, and he gave thanks to Iluvatar, saying, "May Eru bless my work and amend it." But Iluvatar spoke again and said, "Even as I gave being to the thoughts of the Ainur at the beginning of the world, so now I have taken up thy desire, and given to it a place therein. But in no other way will I amend thy handiwork, and as thou hast made it, so shall it be. But I will not suffer that these should come before the firstborn of my design, nor that thy impatience should be rewarded. They shall sleep now in the darkness under stone, and shall not come forth until the firstborn have awakened upon earth, and until that time thou and they shall wait, though long it seem. But when the time comes, I will awaken them, and they shall be to thee as children, and often strife shall arise between thine and mine, the children of my adoption and the children of my choice." Oh, great. Your real kids and your adopted kids. Way to go, Iluvatar. Then Aule took the 7 fathers of the dwarves, and laid them to rest in far-sundered places, and he returned to Valinor, and waited while the long years lengthened. Since they were to come in the days of the power of Melkor, Aule made the dwarves strong to endure. Therefore they are stone-hard, stubborn, fast in friendship and in enmity, and they suffer toil and hunger and hurt of body more hardily than all other speaking peoples. And they live long, far beyond the span of men, yet not forever. Aforetime it was held among the elves in Middle-earth that dying the dwarves returned to the earth and the stone of which they were made. Yet that is not their own belief. For they say that Aule the Maker, whom they call Mehal, cares for them, and gathers them to Mandos in halls set apart, and that he declared to their fathers of old that Iluvatar will hallow them and give them a place among the children in the end. Then their part shall be to serve Aule, and to aid him in the remaking of Arda after the last battle. They say also that the 7 fathers of the dwarves return to live again in their own kin, and to bear once more their ancient names, of whom Durin was the most renowned in after ages, father of that kindred most friendly to the elves, whose mansions were at Khazad-dûm, which we know. Now, when Aule laboured in the making of the dwarves, he kept this work hidden from the other Valar, but at last he opened his mind to Yavanna, and told her of all that had come to pass. Then Yavanna said to him, "Eru is merciful. Now I see that thy heart rejoiceth, as indeed it may, for thou hast received not only forgiveness, but bounty. Yet because thou hiddest this thought from me until its achievement, thy children will have little love for the things of my love. They will love first the things made by their own hands, as doth their father. They will delve in the earth, and the things that grow and live upon the earth they will not heed. Many a tree shall feel the bite of their iron without pity." But Aule answered, "That shall also be true of the children of Iluvatar, for they will eat and they will build. And though the things of thy realm have worth in themselves, and would have worth if no children were to come, yet Eru will give them dominion, and they shall use all they find in Arda, though not by the purpose of Eru, without respect, or without gratitude." "Well, not unless Melkor darken their hearts," said Yavanna. And she was not appeased, but grieved in heart, fearing what might be done upon Middle-earth in days to come. Therefore she went before Manwë, and she did not betray the counsel of Aule, but she said, "King of Arda, is it true, as Aule hath said to me, that the children when they come shall have dominion over all the things of my labour, to do as they will therewith?" "It is true," said Manwë. "But why dost thou ask? For thou hadst no need of the teaching of Aule." Then Yavanna was silent, and looked into her own thought, and she answered, "Because my heart is anxious, thinking of the days to come. All my works are dear to me. Is it not enough that Melkor should have marred so many? Shall nothing that I have devised be free from the dominion of others?" "If thou hadst thy will, what wouldst thou reserve?" said Manwë. "Of all thy realm, what dost thou hold dearest?" "All have their worth," said Yavanna, "and each contributes to the worth of the others. but the Kelvar can flee or defend themselves, whereas the Olvar that grow cannot. And among these I hold trees dear, long in the growing, swift shall they be in the felling, and unless they pay toll with fruit upon bough, little mourned in their passing. So I see in my thought. Would that the trees might speak on behalf of all things that have roots, and punish those that wrong them. This is a strange thought, said Manwe. Yet it was in the song, said Yavanna, for while thou wert in the heavens, and with Ulmo built the clouds and poured out the rains, I lifted up the branches of great trees to receive them, and some sang to Iluvatar amid the wind and the rain. Then Manwe was silent, and the thought of Yavanna that she had put into his heart grew and unfolded, and it was beheld by Iluvatar. Then it seemed to Manwe that the song rose once more about him, and he heeded now many things therein, that though he had heard them, he had not heeded them before. And at last the vision was renewed, and it was not now remote, for he was himself within it. And yet he saw that all was upheld by the hand of Iluvatar, and the hand entered in, and from it came forth many wonders that had until then been hidden from him in the hearts of the Ainur. Then Manwe awoke, and he went down to Yavanna upon Ezelohar, and he sat beside her beneath the 2 trees. And Manwe said, O Kementari, Eru hath spoken, saying, Do then any of the Valar suppose that I did not hear all the song, even the least sound of the least voice? Behold, when the children awake, then the thought of Yavanna will awake also, and it will summon spirits from afar, and they will go among the Kelvar and the Olvar, and some will dwell therein, and be held in reverence, and their just anger shall be feared. For a time, while the firstborn are in their power, and while the secondborn are young. But dost thou not now remember, Kementari, that thy thought sang not always alone? Did not thy thought and mine meet also, so that we took wing together like great birds that soar above the clouds? That also shall come to be by the heed of Iluvatar, and before the children awake there shall go forth with wings like the wind the eagles of the lords of the west. Then Yavanna was glad, and she stood up, reaching her arms toward the heavens, and she said, I shall climb the trees of Kementari, that the eagles of the king may house therein. But Manwe rose also, and it seemed that he stood to such a height that his voice came down to Yavanna as from the paths of the winds. Nay, he said, only the trees of Aule will be tall enough. In the mountains the eagles shall house, and hear the voices of those who call upon us. But in the forests shall walk the shepherds of the trees. Then Manwe and Yavanna parted for that time, and Yavanna returned to Aule, and he was in his smithy pouring molten metal into a mould. Eru is bountiful, she said. Now let thy children beware, for there shall walk a power in the forest whose wrath they will arouse at their peril. None the less, they will have need of wood, said Aule, and he went on with his smith work. And that's the end of that chapter. Short and sweet by Silmarillion chapters, by standards, I mean. So this one, you see what I mean? It's basically, it just kind of figures in on Aule and Yavanna, because this is where several actually important characters or people come into the story. Aule just loves making things, man. That's how Iluvatar made him. He loves to make things. And he knew that there were people coming, but he was like, I want to do it. So he makes the dwarves, and he makes them strong. He doesn't really know what the elves and the men are supposed to look like, so he does his own version of it. So it's kind of squat, short, really strong, I should say, with lots of endurance. I didn't really catch the first time I read this that that dwarves live so long, because if Durin was one of the first elves that gets created and then he Durin's Bane, and he basically creates Moria. So he lived for a very long time. Not as long as the elves, but certainly much longer than men or humans. And I love that he just kind of does it in secret. And Iluvatar, this is where we start seeing the humor of Tolkien's dialogue, which he's such a really genius writer. The difference between his high language and his low everyday language is very clear. And when he puts those little drops of actual dialogue in, I love it. You know, like Iluvatar coming in and saying, what are you doing? Basically. And here we see another one of these similarities to the Bible, and you have these stories and images and motifs that crop up. I think it's Abraham and Isaac, where the father's sacrificing his son in the Bible, and God, just as he's about to do it, God's just like, nope, it's okay, I got you. You've proved yourself. You're a great guy. And the same thing basically happens here, where Iluvatar is like, buddy, you did good. Did you not notice already that they're already moving around on their own and that I've already accepted them? You're fine. But, and here's a little bit of racism, classism. I don't know what you want to say. Iluvatar's like, my kids are coming first, and then your kids can wake up. So you put your kids to sleep in a tomb, and they got to wait. And then I love that, Aule is so, he keeps it secret because he feels ashamed, but he can't help but tell his wife. And, I don't know I know that there's a new series coming out. I think it's Amazon is going to do like a Lord of the Rings prequel kind of thing. And I'm assuming these are the stories they're going to use. But what a great moment, just like, God and two gods at home. And he's like, listen, I did a thing. And she's like, whoa, buddy, wish you'd share that with me, because your children are going to fuck my shit up, basically. They're not going to like my stuff, all the growing things and animals. And he's like, yeah, it's not just mine. Everybody's going to eat your stuff. And I really love this moment where she goes to Manwë and she's like, is it not enough that Melkor has messed things up already? All my shit is going to be destroyed? And Manwë's like, yeah, sorry, that's what it is. And then he's like, you know what? Pick one thing that you love. You can have the one thing. And she's like, all right. And basically what she says is she'd like to invent the Ents. This is where the Ents come into the world of Tolkien. She said, I'd like these guardians to come in. So, again, it's Iluvatar explains that they're going to wake up at the same time as the elves. He wants all the moving people with faces and languages to start at the same time. So the elves have to come first, and then the dwarves will awaken up, and the Ents will awaken up, and she's really happy about it. And I like that Iluvatar comes in and or rather the first Yavanna's like, it was in the song that these things are going to do okay. Like, you were just paying attention to somebody else, but it's in the song. And that Manwë, hears more of the song. And Iluvatar kind of shows up again and says like, hey, there's going to be some stuff you didn't know about. And then there's also this moment where Manwë sits beside Yavanna, and you never really, it's these little glimmering moments of how do these Valar feel about each other? Are they co-workers? You hear the thing that, Melkor kind of had a thing for Manwë's wife who made the stars. And it seems like if there's this, he's like, wait a minute, well, you're talking about stuff. Remember, we made something? We made part of the song, and it was about animals and wind coming together. And so this is also where the large eagles, the lords of the eagles that show up at some really key points in Lord of the Rings, this is when they're made as well. And then he gets a little dig in there. She's like, hey, yeah, and I'll make the trees for the eagles to live. And he's like, no, bitch, they're not tall enough. Your husband's mountains are going to be tall enough. They can't really cut Yavanna a break. I mean, I'm really glad she made the Ents. They're also really important. And then there's this last little thing where she comes home and she's like, I made some people, and your little dwarves better watch out for my Ents. And he's like, still going to need wood. Bang, bang, bang. It's a really delightful kind of chapter, and it was the first one that really took me in. The first three are, like, okay, you're doing research for something, and this is the first one where you really see people having moments in a psychological kind of way, and yeah, it's great. So enjoy. Thanks for suffering through my pronunciation of some of these names. I'm just doing my best, and my wandering accents. I'm trying for that kind of Scottish North kind of thing. I'm doing my best, guys. That's it. So I'll be back again to do the chapter after this, but one of my favorites, and I hope you enjoyed it too, and I hope you're doing really well and healthy and eating and taking care of yourself and the people that you love. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you back again.